A false confession is a huge injustice, but you gotta wonder, how often do they really happen?
You'd think that'd be a simple question to answer, but it's not. Let's get into this confession paradox. Okay, so we can all agree on this, right? Every single one of these cases is a tragedy. And if you look at the data, about 13% of all known exonerations involve a false confession. But here's the catch. That 13% doesn't tell the whole story. It's about what we're not seeing. I mean, how can we really know how risky a tactic is if we only study when it fails? Well, there's a name for this problem: outcome selection bias. We only focus on the known failures. And that totally skews our perception of the real risk because we're ignoring the vast majority of cases. It's kind of like testing for a rare disease. Even with a good test, a positive result is often a false alarm.
Okay, so a new study tried to fix this bias by actually looking at the entire picture.
They use these complex simulations to account for all those thousands of unseen interrogations. So, after all that, what did this more complete picture actually reveal about the true risk? Well, across all the different simulations, the probability landed right around 1%. Just 1%. And what's really interesting here is how that probability just consistently stays super low across different scenarios. This table really shows the difference. Previous research, it just focused on the failures. This study estimates the overall risk. So the big point here isn't just the number, it's about what that number actually means for policy. And that brings us to a really fundamental legal concept, the Blackstone ratio. It's all about our tolerance for error. And this acceptability curve shows that trade-off perfectly. It's where the hard data connects directly to our values. So if you go by that classic 10-to-1 standard, the roughly 1% risk seems, well, acceptable. But let's say your personal standard is way higher, maybe 50-to-1. Then that same risk becomes a much closer call. All right, let's move on and see how this all builds to the final takeaway from this research. So this study really clarifies the debate. It shows it's not just about the raw data, but also our values. And that's the core conflict, the actual data-driven risk versus what we decide is an acceptable price for justice. Which leaves us all with one final big question. When the data isn't perfect, how do we even decide what's just?